Hello, I'm Mary Ann Cable, Corporate Communications Director for AES Ohio. I'm pleased to be with you today and share with you an update from the utility. And with that, a little bit about myself. I have been with AES Ohio for nearly 10 years in media relations and corporate communications. Prior to that, I spent my time with Laystar and Workflow One, formerly Relizon and Standard Register, as Corporate Communications Director. But prior to that, I spent a majority of my career at NCR Corporation, leading technology and engineering and communications for the company there for more than 25 years. Today, we're going to talk about some key updates as it relates to AES Ohio. Our agenda is quite full, so when looking at our agenda, some of the slides that I'm going to discuss is our rebranding. About a year and a half ago, we rebranded to AES Ohio, so I'm going to touch base on that history for just a little bit. We're going to talk about our values, and the important value that we're going to spend some time on is safety first. That being said, we're going to talk about the path of electricity. So I'm going to give you a little bit of education on electricity and how it flows, and give you a visual so you know what some of the electric equipment that we often talk about, be it on the media or in the Dayton Daily News and other magazines and other sources that we reference. But a key thing that we're going to discuss is preparation. And preparation is planning. And the utility especially hones in on planning for all scenarios. I also am going to talk about the grid. As of late, in the news and in other places, we've heard many references to the grid. So I want to explain what that means to the utility, what that means to our customers, and how that ensures that you have safe, reliable power throughout your workday and throughout your home life as we move forward. Additionally, we're going to talk about outage safety. You know, we all have weather events in the Miami Valley. Summer is a key time of year when we have a number of storms that may impact your power. I want to talk about safety there, and you can use these tips whether it's in the summer, fall, winter, or spring months. Additionally, I want to touch on restoration. So how do we restore power quickly and safely to our customers? And then I want to be very relevant in terms of what's happening today at the utility, and that's our move to a smart grid environment, employing those advanced technologies to help with safe, reliable power as we move into the future. And then with that, I'm going to close, and if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to share that with the chamber, and we will give those back to you with some responses to close out on any questions that you may have. But I'm going to do a little bit of history right now. So AES Ohio was formerly Dayton Power and Light. Dayton Power and Light has been with the Miami Valley for more than 120 years, and we all know Dayton Power and Light. For many of us who are native Daytonians, you know, we have had family and friends there that have worked there for many, many years. In 2011, AES Corporation, a power production company that has a worldwide footprint operating in 14 countries, acquired Dayton Power and Light. Within our contract, we retained the name Dayton Power and Light for the better part of 9 years, even though 5 years is what was written. That being said, in 2021, collectively, all the companies and markets under AES Corporation rebranded with AES and then their market designation. And AES Corporation, we have 3 utilities. There's one in Ohio, AES Ohio, one in Indiana, AES Indiana, and one in El Salvador, AES El Salvador. So that gives you kind of like a background in terms of, you know, why the name change. But let's talk about some important things as to what that brings to us. So we're a global company. There are technologies and advances in the energy world that we can incorporate from our global partners, our global neighbors that we have in our marketplace and within our company to bring those to the Miami Valley. So that's a great asset that we have as a company, and just as important are our local roots. Our local roots, we have the same great people that you've seen for many, many years, and the legacy that we've built and the trust we have with our customers. So that's really important, and I want to spend some time and share just a brief commercial that we shared when we rebranded, because there's an important step that we're taking in our energy transition, and that's the future. We're building a smarter future, and actually, that starts with our kids. We have many of our children that are in schools today that are part of a STEM environment. They're in education classes that are building that knowledge and that capacity for the future of energy. So it all starts with those science fairs. So I'm going to take a moment and share this with you, and know that this relates to who we are and where we're growing, and that next generation of customers and advanced technologists and people that are working at the utility.
You're looking at our future, working together, learning from each other, and teaching everyone how our lives can improve with greener, smarter energy. At AES, we champion this innovation, and the work we're doing globally is coming right here to the Miami Valley, so that our community can enjoy smart energy solutions that power our lives while energizing the next generation of innovators. DP&L is now AES Ohio. We are accelerating the future of energy together.
That was just a snippet of some of the branding elements that we shared last year, and you're continuing to see as we share our name throughout our community, and the brand colors that you see, emphasizing our embracing our roots with the blue that you've seen with DP&L, to the technology represented by the teal color, and our efforts to move toward a greener, smarter energy future. So what I want to hone into on is our values. These values are supported throughout our company. Our values are three main values. Number one, in light of the fact that we're a utility, it's always safety first. Safety first is top of mind. The other thing too speaks to the integrity of the company. We employ the highest standards in all we do. That's how our people operate, that's what we live by, and that's how we treat our customers, our partners, our contractors, and our fellow employees. We couldn't do this if we didn't collaborate, and that's the value of doing things all together. We can learn from each other and grow, and that growing happens continually. Let's talk about our service territory. AES Ohio is a member of the PJM Interconnect. That's the grid, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we support 24 counties in west central Ohio, and that compensates 6,000 square miles, of which nearly 18,000 miles of transmission lines and overhead lines or distribution lines. They're also underground. So we also have 530,000 customers, and 470,000 of those approximately are residential customers, and the balance are commercial and industrial. So as you could tell, we have quite a diverse portfolio of customers. I did want to make note of the fact that our service territory encompasses a lot of different geographies, from the metropolitan area of Montgomery County and Greene and some of the contiguous counties around Montgomery, to more of the rural areas, be it in our northern counties and the eastern counties in our service territory. It's important to note that AES Ohio is one of 4 investor-owned utilities in the state of Ohio. Along with AES Ohio, there's Duke Energy. There's also AEP Ohio that serves Columbus and North, and First Energy, which serves Cleveland and that quadrant of the state. That being said, we have quite a diverse portfolio of geographies. That includes the rural communities and the more metropolitan communities. One thing that comes to mind is the supporting of reliable power. And that always tends to come when we have these weather events, whether it's a thunderstorm and some more significant ones, whether it's a tornado or a derecho, which are straight line winds. One of the things I want to note about the utilities service territory is the 2 interstates that I've noted on the map, and that's 70 and 75. Knowing that we have different geographies, north of 70 primarily is a rural community. Also, the weather has more of a pattern that has the snow and ice in the winter, and more snow than ice, and more opportunities for straight line winds to do damage. In the southern part of our service territory, we have denser populations, so that we have more service and poles and wires serving our customers. Plus, that's where we kind of get the ice when it comes down to the winter storms. But collectively throughout the service territory, especially in the summer months, we also have these conditions with thunderstorms and heat. Safety first, that's our first value. It's our core value. It is woven into everything we do. Safety is a consideration whether you're an employee of the company, whether you're a customer of the company, a partner, and a contractor. Number one are our line crews. Our line crews are out there in all kinds of weather. and our people indoors are supporting those line crews. So it is it's top of mind in everything we do. Whether you walk into a room, such as myself in an office space, I'm already looking for where the exit is, if there's any cords or wires for slip, trip, and falls, and also to know if there's any other notations in terms of being mindful of safety in terms of working with equipment. Now, with our crews that are out in the field, that's exponentially important because of the work that they do. They're essential workers and they're working with electricity, which is a very dangerous job. So we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what they do in that preparation. We're going to take a few moments to talk about the path of electricity. So it all starts with generation. So what is generation? Generation is the actual electrons that go through the wires, and that can be different sources. The sources can be coal or other fossil fuels. It can be solar, it can be wind, it can be battery storage. From there, it goes through our transmission lines. Those are the very large poles that you see out in many of the more expansive territories that do not have much growth around them because of the nature of the voltage that they carry. From there, they go to a substation. That substation splits out that electricity to serve you. It goes through our poles and wires. That's our distribution network. Those wires take the power and the electricity to your home, whether it's above ground on our overhead lines or underground. Let's take a look at some of the equipment, because many times when you are hearing it on the news or you're reading in the paper, we talk about a substation or we'll talk about a transformer, and we also talk about how the equipment looks like or how it's insulated. So the upper left-hand corner of the screen has an example of a substation. There are several within the AES Ohio service territory, 153 to be exact. And that's a transformer on the opposite side of that. That's a power transformer that supports the power needed in that substation, so it's quite large. And then you'll see the insulators, and in terms of how we protect that transmission through those wires that are coming from the substation to the distribution network to your homes. A transformer you may see near your home on our distribution line would be attached on a pole that seems like it's almost like a barrel. So that's a smaller transformer, but it is a transformer that we have. The two I've noted on this particular slide, one is a meter, and another one is a transformer pad that, are for those people or those customers who receive their electricity underground. We have some safety precautions that we put in place there, making sure that with the meter on your home, that there's a safe distance around it so that the meters can be maintained, read, or switched out without any interference. So we are very conscientious about reminding customers if they're building a deck or they're landscaping, especially when we talk about spring planting season or fall planting season, to be mindful and make sure that there's enough room around your meter, as well as the ones our customers who have their electricity delivered to them underground, to make sure that there's 10 feet around the circumference of that pad that's absent of that shrubbery so that our crews can get to it efficiently. Preparation is planning. That's key. That's safety. You can't plan enough. We plan for every weather event. Be weather aware. It changes dramatically. So I want to cite 3 different types of planning that we do. One especially for our line crews. That's a tough job. It's a tough job. They go through 8,000 hours of training. It's called an apprenticeship. 6 years of training. This is a picture of what we call the South Yard. It's visible from I-75, as a matter of fact. You have to be in very good shape to climb those poles under numerous conditions. So the training that they get initially when they're going through their apprenticeship, as well as continually, is important so that they can be in the best of health and athletic ability to climb those poles and serve you. It's also important to note with our line crews, especially during restoration, they're focused on their job. And with their job, they have to be very careful of all their surroundings. There's a situational awareness component to what they do because of the working with electricity and the highly dangerous job that they are asked to perform. Another facet that's very important, whether you're on our line crews or a field technician, is to do a job assessment. So before they start any work, they cover what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and make sure that anything from a safety perspective is talked about and worked through in their planning, and they're keenly aware of their surroundings and their partners as they perform their work with electricity. Now, collectively, throughout AES Ohio, we participate in what we call GridX. GridX is national. It is a time when we gather all the people that work to support our customers, whether they're in customer service, whether they're in communications, whether they're in dispatch, whether they're a crew in the field, whether they're more of our administrative personnel, or our leaders and managers. And these scenarios we are not informed of ahead of time. They could be anything from a bomb, active shooter that's at one of our locations, to a significant outage due to an equipment failure, and most sensitive to things like right now, obviously a pandemic where we would have to move and work and operate differently, which we navigated very well throughout the pandemic. Not saying that the pandemic's over by any stretch of the imagination, but we worked through that in terms of our crews, maintaining a safe distance and staying healthy for themselves, their families, and their communities. The other thing too is with GridX, the scenarios are it's like the worst case scenario. So that tests the contingency planning, the business planning, and the crisis communications plans that we update regularly so that we are on top of our game when it comes down to those situations. That being said, with GridX, since it's on a national basis, those actions that we take in responding to those scenarios are captured. And then we are given feedback from the national organization as to how well we did and where those improvements are that we can make and embed into our contingency and our crisis communication plans. I said I was going to touch on the grid. The grid is a regional transmission organization that we're a member of. Throughout the United States, collective states are a member of different transmission organizations. Ours happens to be PJM. That encompasses 14 states. So that is when we need to reach out, when we've reached peak load, to may have another resource of energy or electricity that we can pull from to serve our community. And it ensures that reliability for our customers. So it's that extra layer. Let's talk about what it does. We regularly check with our PJM contacts to make sure that the load that's forecasted we can meet in the summer months or the winter months, whether it's the cold or the extreme heat. And how do we manage those peak loads? So we also put a layer of emergency plans when it comes down to the work with PJM, and we test those and update those frequently. So the last resort would be anything that the peak was met or exceeded. And that could potentially mean some disruption in the power to our customers. So we have not ever gotten to that step with AES Ohio. Should that ever happen, it would be a rotation where customers would be without power for 30 to 60 minutes. And that, mind you, we have more than 500,000 customers. That rotation would take quite a bit of time. So that planning, once again, is key. Some of the critical customers that are exempt from that would be hospitals, water, radio and TV stations to update you, and other public safety. These are really important. It's important to have PJM, and it's important to have that as part of our safety plan and our crisis communication plans and our plans in general. And we are committed to serving our customers with reliable service always. I want to touch on how do we restore power. So when we have a weather event and you experience a loss of power, it's really important, number one, to call us or report it online and let us know you're out of power. We do not know you're out of power at this time, and your neighbors are not going to report it for you. So we want to restore power as quickly and safely as possible. So in emergency situations, especially with the larger outages, what we want to do is restore power to as many people as we possibly can. So I encourage people to go out to the outage map so you can see the size of the outages throughout our service territories. So our crews are going to restore those people or those customers first, or they may redirect power so that people can have their electricity back and they can spend more time on some of those outages that may take time. So Once again, we tackle the largest outages, the largest number of customers out, and try to restore them as quickly as possible, and then we'll move on to the smaller outages. We also employ, especially for some of our larger weather events, we belong to two mutual aid societies, or organizations rather, Great Lakes and SEC, the Southeastern Exchange, where we would ask for crews to help us with restoration. A great example of that was when we had the Memorial Day tornadoes. We enlisted those services to help with our recovery efforts. Outage safety tips. So what do you do in the case of an outage? Number one, you need to report it. I mentioned that earlier. Whether you call us and report your outage, or you can do it online. It's safety first. One of the things I say frequently is assume that down power lines are energized, and that's key. That being said, when you see one, when it's sagging, whether it's touching the ground, stay 10 feet away, call us. Some of the other things that we don't talk about maybe, or you haven't heard as frequently, is what happens if a power line comes down and it's on your car. Well, number one, call 911. If you are unable to reach your phone, or something's not accessible, or it's not with you, you want to roll down your window, and if someone's in the area, to ask them or yell out there for them to call 911. Worst case scenario, if there's sparks, which may potentially lead to a fire hazard, you want to exit your car. But that you've got to do it very carefully, because you need ground, and it's opening your door and very carefully jumping out, making sure both feet hit the ground at the same time, and then hop to safety. Hopefully that never occurs for you. But let's get back to like outages that we see on a regular occurrence and what you need to do. There's 3 tips that I often share, and that's number one, make a plan. You need to discuss with your family and the members of your household, what are they going to do in the way of an emergency? Where's the rally point? Where's the best place to be safe? And make sure everyone knows. Number 2, put together a storm kit. Whether it's in a plastic box, and you make sure you have non-perishable food items, cash, chargers for your mobile devices, make sure you have that, extra batteries, flashlights, so you can be prepared. The other thing too is be informed. Be informed is know and bookmark either the outage page and put the outage number for AES Ohio in your phone so you can call us immediately. Also make sure you have a list of numbers for emergency, whether it's police and fire, all those important numbers in your phone. Staying informed is key. The next topic I'd like to discuss is smart grid. So as we talked earlier, we talked about the path of electricity, which was very linear. Now we're moving to a two-way intelligent platform. So that's going to be a two-way communication that we're having with our customers so that we can engage with our customers more often and talk to them. And we will be able to have the intelligence through a smart grid to know when you're out and to diagnose what's going on and to send those crews to the right location at the time of the outage. But there's more to smart grid than that. There's updating the legacy systems. It's getting that data analysis. It's getting the data so that you can track your usage, so you can be more efficient and you can employ the energy efficiency techniques and the availability of the resources to better understand your use of energy. Just as a side note, 56% of your energy usage goes to heating and cooling. And there's lots of things that you can do to make sure you save money and save energy. So getting back to smart grid, we had an order that came through, a settlement if you will, last June. It was our smart grid order or settlement. That being said, it's a 4-year plan. Changing over from a traditional system to a smart system takes time. And we have a large service territory, 24 counties and over 500,000 customers. That being said, the first step is a smart meter. So we're in the process since January of deploying smart meters. And this is a map of our service territory, and we note the years in which we're going to go out to the different counties to exchange your meters. That meter is going to tell us that information that we need to know and you need to know. So you can track your usage, and it's going to reach out to that meter and ping it, and it'll know that the meter is live and that you have power because it's responding back with information. When it doesn't respond back, we know that you're out of power. So we're going to be able to give you an opportunity to choose your preferences as to how you want to receive any information whether you're out of power, whether it's an outage alert on your phone, whether you get an email or a text. All those preferences will be available to you in a seamless communication with the utility. And what should you expect when we do the smart meter exchange? Number one, you'll receive a phone call when we're in the area. And then a contracted technician through AES Ohio will be exchanging the meter. That person is either from Western Par or it will be through Black Cap. But in light of the fact that we have a technician going to your home to make that meter exchange, if they're working on behalf of AES Ohio, they have ID. So don't feel uncomfortable if they're on your property and you ask for their ID before they do their work. Let's get back to the meter. So the meter exchange takes less than 10 minutes. The outage, momentary to 10 minutes. You may have to reset your clocks. So that's what happens with the meter exchange. And right now we are covering the Centerville area. We've been to Huber Heights. We have a large service territory, but our crews are out there daily making those exchanges. So let's talk about kind of like an example of, what that's going to do. Like for instance, what I had said was it's giving you data all the time. And with that exchange of data, what would happen in the past, a tree would go down on a power line and 500 customers would be out of power. But with the smart meter alone, we have smart switches that are going in there, and as the meter is pinging us with information telling us when or if a customer is out of power, we can narrow down that field to 50 or 25 customers and have it located so when we roll a truck, they know exactly where to go. And those smart switches will redirect and self-heal the grid where we do not need that truck to work with the vegetation crews to take the tree off the line and then restore the power. So that alone improves reliability and safety and restoration. So how can you benefit today? Well, there's some things you can do, and I encourage people, if you don't have a smart thermostat, to consider investing in one. Right now, through AES Ohio, and if you also have gas for your heating, you can also take advantage of their rebate. The combined rebate could be upwards of $150. For a $200 Nest thermostat, it could be like $50, which is a huge reduction in the price for all the advantages that you'll get with a smart thermostat. Another thing with the smart meters being deployed before the entire system of all the smart technology goes into place is the fact that, like with moves, we can reconnect and disconnect remotely instead of rolling out a truck to manually do that at each location. And for business and government users, we have EV charging rebates, and that's been of high interest to many of our business customers. All this information and more can be found on our Smart Grid page, which is aes-ohio.com/smartgrid. The 4 pillars leading an inclusive clean energy transition are our customers, making sure that we have a seamless engagement with the utility. So you have services such as outage alerts and usage alerts to deploy and implement our smart technology through Smart Grid, to make sure that the energy that we receive is cleaner and more reliable. And we're training the workforce of the future. Those are the kids that you see today, the ones in college, the ones in grade school and middle school that are doing their science fairs, that are taking on STEM education. That technology and that advancement is where we're going today and into the future. We are accelerating the future of energy together. So for more information on outage tips and safety, as well as Smart Grid, please go to our website at aes-ohio.com. Thank you for listening and being a part of this safety presentation, and I appreciate your time.